If you never had to work with video fields on a regular basis, this tutorial is for you. This tutorial might also be useful to you because some television stations still broadcast 59.94 fields per second. Also, some devices still use fields or have that option. Have you ever wondered what that was for? And then there's the fact that old archives and video projects that you need to restore likely used video fields. The render settings are different from each other. We will be looking at Adobe Media Encoder, Premiere Export, and After Effects Render Queue. Let's get started. Did you know that most TV stations are still 1080i? This scenario is most likely because this technology requires half the bandwidth and consequently a less demanding transmission. Although the duration of the program remains the same, the information transmitted every second is 2 times smaller, as only half the image data is broadcast. Here's a list of the US stations and what format they use. So this tutorial will help you if you need to prepare motion graphics alone or combine with live action and deliver your results in 1080i. We will see 2 different workflows. When you deliver interlaced footage to a 1080i station, you're most likely rendering your projects in 1080 59.94, and some hardware device near the end converts it to 29.97 interlaced for a direct insert of 29.97i media. You can then just set the render settings to 29.97 interlaced from the 59.94 full-frame material, and it will skip the expected field. If you're adding live action that was shot at 30p, the method is not as obvious. We will see another workflow which will include our plugin within Fields Kit called Reinterlacer. This will create a new field by interpolation between the adjacent frames. Let's start by creating an intermediate 30p clip in After Effects that will import into Premiere Pro. In this first scenario, we start with Comp 1 here in After Effects. Imagine that we've added some graphics and effects to the live action. You can see if we go to the render settings, this is 29.97 frames per second. And if I advance through the frames, the counter advances 1 number per frame. We can add that to Adobe Media Encoder and we can use this preset that I made. These are the important settings to note here. We will use ProRes 4444 and I can choose 16 bits per channel and the max bit depth checkbox. We save this as a preset and we can apply to Comp 2. Now we can go back to After Effects and take a look at Comp 2. We can see that this one is 59.94 frames per second. Since we know that it has to be fields, we can generate double the frames that we need. If we advance through the frames, the counter advances half a number per frame. We can send this comp to Adobe Media Encoder as well, and this workflow is more straightforward since we don't have to create new fields. We can apply the same preset and render both comps. Now they're both rendered, and we'll jump into Premiere Pro. We've imported both progressive clips. We can start with Comp 2 and make a new sequence from clip. We can go to the sequence settings and see this is 59.94 and no fields. If I advance forward a few frames, you can see that I advance by 0.5 each frame. Now we can select the sequence in our project bin and right-click and export media to AME. We set it to 29.97 frames per second and make sure that the field checkbox is set to lower fields. Now for the Comp 1 clip. We can make a new sequence from clip. If we look at the sequence settings, this one's 30p. We can set it to fields and choose lower field and apply Reinterlacer to generate an extra field. If we advance forward a few frames, you can see that we generated a new field. We can right mouse click and go to Fields, Display First Field, and then Display Second Field, and then finally display both fields. Now we can export media and we see the same AME setup. You can see that we've generated 2 interlaced clips that are all ready to broadcast, after rendering of course.